Morning, Coach. We'll get started here with Dave Zangaro and then Jeff McLean.
Hey, Jim, good morning. Davion Taylor got his most action in a game so far this year. Wanted to know how he handled it and if there's a chance we might see him more down the stretch here.
Well, one of the reasons was they were playing so many big personnel groups. 13 where there's 3 tight ends and only 1 wide receiver, 22 where there's 2 tight ends and 2 backs, only 1 wide receiver. So we were in heavy positions where we either had an extra safety in the game, Kayvon got a couple of those, or extra linebacker on the field. And it was all in an effort to just shut down their run game that came out of it. Just like anybody else. I mean, you guys know I don't like to degrade players, but just to suffice to say, just like a lot of the defense, had some good plays and had some bad plays. Some things we need to work on and get a little bit better at.
Go ahead, Jeff, and then John.
Jim, with the results the last few weeks and how the defense has performed versus the offense, how do you keep it from being, and you guys not getting the results you want, how do you keep it from being kind of a defense versus offense thing that can fester in the locker room?
Well, that's not even in our mentality. I think any team would tell you the same thing. Our goal is one thing, is to win the game, and that could be 7-3, could be 38-37. We know that's the only important thing is getting a win. That's the only thing we concentrate on. And part of being a resilient team, of being a tough team, is being able to persevere through tough times. It's not all easy. It's not all doing the electric slide. There's going to come some times where you have to battle through some injury situations or some situations where one side of the ball is struggling or not. The offense has picked us up plenty of times. We've picked the offense up. We look at it as it's our job, and we can do more.
Go ahead, John, and then Bo.
Hey, good morning, Jim. I know you just said you don't like to grade players, but Alex Singleton seems to have shown up with this opportunity. Has he done enough to be in the mix for you pretty consistently, even if you're at full strength at linebacker?
Yeah, he's always been a good football player. He's still learning. I'm going to quote Bill Parcells. Let's not put him in the Hall of Fame just yet. And I say that with a lot of respect for Alex, and he plays tough, and and really brings some things to our defense. But he's not 100% clean in his game. He'd probably be the first person to tell you that, and there's still things he's developing through, and he's still working at. But just knowing him and his character, he's going to work at it to get it right. And there were a couple plays left on the field, and this goes to all great players, and probably any player in the NFL. They don't really think about their success. They think about the plays that they gave up on the field, the plays that they had a chance to make, but maybe took a wrong step or looked at the wrong thing. And that's the only way you get better. That's the only way you keep improving. You have to be critical of yourself, and you have to look at the things that you need to clean up, and not just, sort of get drunk on your success, so to speak. And I really like Alex's mentality that way. Makes mistakes like a lot of young players do, or players that are playing for the first time, gets them corrected and moves on. And, so I think that he's definitely earning his wings, so to speak. But he's still a work in progress, and he's still a guy that needs to grind through, and iron some things out. But I like where he's trending, and I think it's a nice plus for our defense right now.
Bo, and then Martin.
Jim, are there examples from your coaching career of players whose instincts have taken a big jump over the course of their career, especially at those positions like linebacker and safety, where it seems to be so important?
Well, I think a lot of things that maybe you guys might think are instincts are really just quick decision making. And I think that quick decision making a lot of times comes from experience. And what happens is you've gone through it a million times, or you know exactly what to look at, your preparation, all those kind of things. And we've all seen players that might not time well, but they play fast. And I think a lot of that is just that preparation and that slowing of the game down. I mean, I think it's probably a little bit overtold, the slowing of the game. But those guys that that can do that, that can play, they play fast, and it's more. I mean, there is some instincts involved. I don't want to say there aren't, but I think that the experience and the preparation and those things, every young player that I've been around, those have been the things that have that have sort of turned them into very successful players. Instincts can only take you so far in this league. Athletic ability can only take you so far in this league. Everybody's a supreme athlete. Everybody is a good football player. Everybody has those things. It's the little things that separate the guys that end up becoming great players and the ones that sort of mire in mediocrity.
Martin and then Tim.
Hey, Jim. DK Metcalf obviously had a couple of really big games against you guys last season. What is he doing that kind of taking his game to another level this year? And how do you think having Slay can kind of offset maybe some of the success he's had against you guys?
Well, he's so big, and his arms are so long and things like that, and Slay has generally been good handling guys like that, whether it's, you name a person, AJ Green or any of these other guys that he's been matched up on. He has those long arms. He can poke balls away and things like that. It's a great challenge for us. It's not just getting him covered, it's tackling him. You have to defend every inch of the field with a guy like that. They can just throw a zero hitch to him, zero meaning it's a 0-yard route, and just get him the ball, and he's hard to handle. He's strong and he's fast, and he's like a running back. So you got to get him tackled on that stuff. He also has the speed to be able to go deep. So it's a great challenge for us. Just watching him and having played him, a couple times in the last year, and watch him develop, and just getting just one day of game planning. And so far, I would say this: I think he's a much improved player in working with the quarterback and understanding Russell Wilson's scrambles and how to get open versus scrambles, because it's not just about running your route when it does break down and you have a quarterback that can scramble. It's about, being on the same page with him and knowing what spots you want to get to. And he seems to be a much improved player doing that. He's made a lot of big plays this year doing things like that. So adds a lot of things. Number one, getting him tackled on short routes, getting him covered on deep balls, and then also staying with him on plays that are extended. And we're gonna have to do all three of those things to limit him.
Tim and then Nick.
Jim, what's your process when you're in the midst of a season that's not going well? Do you have an approach that you found works best in order to get your players to respond at their best?
I'd have to say I a little bit disagree with the premise of your question. I don't think anybody looks at a season and says, "Wow, this isn't going well. This is the way we need to handle it." You're in the moment every week. You're competing every single week. Every single week is a new challenge, and you have to keep your eyes on that, and you have to be able to persevere through great times, big wins, bounce back from a big win, bounce back from a big loss. You look across the NFL. It's not always just sort of all happy times for great teams. It's been a while since I looked at this, but there was a bunch of Super Bowl champions that lost like 4 games in a row at different times. And you have to be able to battle through those things and just know they're part of the game, and the ability to stay resilient, the ability to battle through those things. I think, people talk a lot about like playing without watching the scoreboard. I think that's a cliche that you hear. Hey, you just got to go out and play. Don't even pay attention to the scoreboard. You got to treat every game like it's 0-0, whether you're up 30 or you're down 30. I think that also applies to the season. I think that, you have to be resilient enough to know that it's not always going to go your way. Everything's not always going to be perfect. Maybe sometimes you have, times where it does, but that's probably the exception as opposed to the rule in this league. This league rewards people that are perseverant. Teams that can persevere, it rewards people that are tough-minded. And I think we keep our eye on things like that.
Nick, and then Les.
Hi, Jim. On the long run by Chubb in that game, obviously Osman didn't get him down on the first time, but he chased him down, got him down on the second try. Does that kind of effort resonate with you? And is it something that you point out as an example of just good play? Or
Yeah, well, Joe Osman is one of the most relentless players I've ever been around. And the thing is, for him, people generally only see it on the practice field. But that is a play. Everybody misses tackles. We actually missed 4 tackles on that play. But Joe had a missed tackle on the play, and then also had a tackle downfield. And a tackle downfield for defensive linemen is a huge, huge thing. Number one, there's a lot of situations where you can force fumbles because you got big men hitting smaller men deep down the field, and a lot of times they're not looking. I think that that was one of those plays. You got to dust yourself off, and you gotta hold them again. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do that on that series. Gave up a longer completion on the first play, gave up a long run on the second, and then had a chance to get a fumble. They ruled that his progress was stopped right there, which philosophically I don't agree with either. I mean, I get it when a quarterback is in the pocket and his momentum is stopped, and you want that quick whistle and things like that. But when you got these quarterbacks that are runners and are putting their head down, trying to, to shove it up into the goal line and stuff like that, they're runners, they're running backs, and in just my personal opinion, I don't think they deserve quick whistles like that. But when it was all said and done, at the end of the day, gave up a touchdown there, and that was a real backbreaker for us. And we got to do better. I would say that it's not just Joe, but particularly in this game, Josh Sweat made a lot of big plays down the field and played with a lot of energy and made some big hits on some plays. And we've seen that all year from guys like Derek Barnett. We've seen it from we've seen it from Brandon Graham. That's just sort of part and parcel to what we do, and it's a hallmark of those guys. So nothing special that Joe did there. I mean, that's just his job in the game. He felt incredibly terrible about it. Felt responsible for the play, and you have to point out to players like, look, you weren't the only guy to miss on that play. That guy's made a lot of guys miss the whole year and has run a lot of stuff. You can't lose your confidence over one play. Dust yourself off, buckle your chin strap again, and let's go win the next snap, or get off the ground and go tackle him down the field. But again, not just Joe on that play, but Josh Sweat, I thought just to single him out in particular, made a lot of those big plays down the field, and we need to keep grinding on those kind of things.
We'll wrap it up with Les, Mike, and then Zach.
Hey, Jim. Kind of playing off of that, there was several times during the game, even though your unit only gave up 13 points, that the Eagles' offense seemed to do something good, and then the next series for the Browns, they had a big play, they scored points. Is that the way you saw it, and what did you think was happening there?
Well, I can assure you, every play we go out there, we're trying to stop them. It's just the way football is. There were 3 times in this game that we had to take the field right around midfield, whether it was after the safety or a backed up punt or, a turnover, whatever it is. I think, right around that midfield stripe, and, all 3 of those, I think combined, we gave up 3 points. So I sort of look at things like that and say, okay, we need to go out and hold them to a field goal here, or we need to go out and get a quick 3 and out and stop them. We did those jobs. I mean, I think I really look at that drive we just talked about as was the one that we'd obviously like to have back, and it was different things. Our coverage fit wasn't great, and we gave up a longer completion on first play, and we missed a bunch of tackles on the second play. Looked like we had a chance to all of a sudden rally, a little bit like the first drive, or second drive when we stopped them on the goal line. Didn't get that one, and then kid makes a great play and jumps over us for a touchdown. Can't lose confidence over stuff like that, and I think that we're out there every single series with a mindset of hey, we have to get this drive stopped. I think you do need to resist the urge, and I didn't see it on any of those plays, Les, but you'd have to resist the urge of trying to do too much, where it's like, oh, offense just scored, we need to get a turnover here, and then all of a sudden you got a guy cheating on a play and gives up a play. That wasn't the case in that play. I mean, that was more so one of them was a little bit self-inflicted, and the other ones I sort of tipped my cap to a guy that running back that made an outstanding play. A lot of other plays in the game that we can be resilient, we can bounce back on, but I would guard against the mentality of trying to do anything other than just do your job within a series, whether the offense just scored or the offense has turned the ball over. I think a little bit like I talked about before, keeping that mentality, keeping that grind is important to us.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Jim, you guys did a really good job of containing Baker Mayfield's mobility in the pocket. You faced a similar test with Russell Wilson this week. How can Jalen Hurts, based on what you've seen on the scout team the first 10 weeks, help you guys prepare for a challenge like that?
Yeah, we've always had different guys. I mean, go back, Greg Ward a couple years ago played quarterback with Russell Wilson, and a lot of those escapes he would give ground and things like that. And I thought in our playoff game last year, we had one play we were in zone coverage, and our linebackers are trying to get depth under these deep play action routes. And Russell Wilson saw that and scrambled for I can't remember how many yards it was. It seemed like it was about 50, but it was probably about 25 or 30. You have to keep track of them at all times, and you have to, it's not just your pass rush. It's every layer of your defense and your vision and things like that, because not only can he scramble for yards, but he can keep things alive and make plays like we talked about before, make plays to Metcalf or any of those other guys. He's great at finding open guys when he's scrambling around. So adds another layer. I'm sure Jalen will give us a good look at that. That's in his skill set. But we've had a lot of different guys that have gone and given us that. It's different in practice because you're not hitting anybody, and there's not the immediacy of getting hit if you're out there in practice. So it does sort of go a little bit more. But with Baker Mayfield, they weren't going to give us very many chances to hit him. Our opportunities were mainly coming on third downs. On first down, it was boot, it was run, and it was empty 3-step pass, and the ball was coming out of his hand fast. And we just needed to stay focused and keep battling, knowing that our opportunities were going to come in different ways. And I thought that the guys did a pretty good job of that. They sort of had a little bit of a broken play on one of those third downs, and Mayfield was able to scramble for a first down. Don't know exactly what they were trying to do, but it just didn't look like everything went the same way, but he was able to tuck it and run it. So he did make plays in that game with his legs, and that's going to be an important part of this week's battle against Russell Wilson.
Wrap it up here with Zach.
Hey, Jim, in the past 3 years, you've had Avonte Maddox at corner, in the slot, at safety. What evidence do you have, or what makes you think that the best way to use him is on the outside?
Yeah, I mean, we have confidence in him no matter where he is on the field. And he's a good, tough football player. He's had some rough patches this year, but he's also bounced back and had some really good patches. And he's probably a lot like our defense. And really, he had about one bad play in that game, the pass interference, and his eyes got a little bit bad, and had to go chase a play and put himself in a tough position on that play. But we have a lot of confidence in Avante. We obviously lost Cravon late in that game, but on the other side of that equation, I thought Nickel Roby had one of his best games of the year for us. He sorted out we were playing a lot of man-to-man, particularly on third downs, and there were a lot of bunch situations, pick situations, and we really saw Roby's his veteran experience out there sorting a lot of that stuff out. I thought he covered really well in this game, and I thought we saw good signs from those guys.
Thanks, Coach.